I had a Caucasian dog, until he decided to become a white supremacist and cut all ties with me, since I like Jews. I used to hang out at his, and we played games all the time. Once he showed me a goofy-looking HOMM clone called Age of Wonders 2, and while it doesn't look good due to its art direction and inconsistent designs, half of which are worthy of Heroes 4, he showed me the ropes, and I was impressed by the depth of the mechanics. I never got around to buying my own jewel case release, but in 2009, I decided to start with the first game. I was really impressed how the first game has all the depth of the sequel, but doesn't look like a clown car smashing through a countryside furry convention directly into early aughts 3D CGI pre-renders. Turned out that time I've reached the final mission, and then my flash drive has failed, burying my saves. Hominem was birthed arse backwards. King's Bounty is an experimental CRPG game. Let's add turn-based tactics combat, instead of that wizardry's punching each other in the balls in turns. And let's replace all the secondary characters with mercenaries. And instead of a gang of bandits, let's make each mercenary to represent a whole army, multiplying the stats. And let's make overworld encounters not random, but chasing you using the rogue-type turns. The end product was extremely popular. Several years later John Van Canegum and New World Computing decided to make a sequel to it, but put it in the world of might and magic. Expanding on the set of the mechanics, they transitioned into the turn-based strategy genre, and accidentally solved the main problem of the genre no one even knew existed. Proper turn-based strategy games are so rare, because they are micromanagement nightmare. Especially that early with that terrible AI. Each turn you have to give an order to each peasant, each warrior, each building, then make all the economical, political and strategic decisions. And then you have to wait for each of your opponents to take a turn. That complexity just couldn't attract a big audience. Each cousin genre removes whole chunks of the mechanics. 4X usually have terrible combat and remove resource gathering. Wargames remove everything but combat, and even that is schematic. Tactical games extremely cull the scope and remove all the strategy. But what Heroes did, is it compartmentalized each part of TBS into separate instances, and synchronized the rates of everything to turns. 1 turn, 1 instant action per city, 1 shipment of resources. All duplicate units stack, 6-7 types per army, always lead by a hero. And well, keeping CRPG heroes with their leveling made the whole thing even more attractive. Heroes became even more popular than King's Bounty and the design paradigm started to spread. People who made King's Bounty 2 created
Герои Мальгримии. Затерянный мир магии.
Bokolev created
Иодор. Сотворение. Демиурги.
integrated CCG elements. Disciples moved the battles closer towards the RPG side of things. Meanwhile Triumph Studios kicked the door of the genre off its hinges by moving Age of Wonders towards 4X. It came out the same year as Disciples and a lot of their changes to the formula are convergent. You are back to using separate units, instead of languishing over the losses in each fight. The magic is insanely cool and strong with many global spells. You can change the terrain. Your units can walk unsupervised. The heroes participate in combat and they are very strong. Both games have the same growth and leveling pacing. They have similar art style, even if Age of Wonders had no weeboo influences. In 2022, I decided to finally beat the game. It has 2 campaigns, and it offers a pre-made hero. But if you chose to make a custom one, there are a lot of really cool perks available only during the creation. A properly built hero is a difference between this game being a breeze or a very difficult drag. Different races have different bonuses, and some of them are really good. Lightning Strike is a very good defensive option. It can stun an attacking enemy, or several. Picking one of the ranged attacks is basically mandatory, otherwise you can't attack flyers. Wall climbing will allow the hero stack to besiege castles without bothering with a battering ram. Several next level ups have to go directly into the defense stat. At the maximum of 10 points the hero will have a really good survivability. Losing a secondary hero will force you to reload, but each death of the main hero will kick you out into the main menu instead, after a cutscene. Picking all marksmanships will improve the ranged attack. Going 10 in resist is almost as important as 10 in defense. Now there's a choice to make. A fully upgraded ranged attack is good, but it can't be as good as going 10 damage with 10 attack for the melee. Magic requires a giant investment, 5 tiers 20 points each. Some of the spells are not ballistic and can hit units behind walls, and this game has some insane extinction tier global and combat spells, but you have to know about them beforehand. For a comfortable play, I'd pick full air. I did both times. But it is not as exciting. Eagles can help with scouting and with raids into the enemy territory. Air elementals are really strong units. They can pass walls, for example, and you can create additional ones on the go, instead of camping in a city for many turns or stretching your supply lines. I've used them instead of my main army on many maps, until they started to abandon me for no reason. Another great spell is allowing your stack to fly. Chain lightning is cheap and hits 4 units with a chance to stun. But instead of wasting that many points on melee or magic, you can have a frog hero, and invest everything into HP and movement points. Boosting health can further improve survivability. With proper defense, few hits can damage the heroes, but they still have just 10 HP by default, and depending on the choice of the attack, the battles can be rather long, with many incoming hits. With good movement, you can just run directly into the enemy's territory, locate the main hero, attack it, and ignoring its army, assassinate its arse. With the loss of the hero, that faction goes neutral and kicks you out of the battle, allowing you to lick your wounds, if any. You can reduce the number of hostile factions to 1 and explore the map, or just assassinate every hero to win it, after reaching the level cap. With all 3 heroes built to the same standard, you can spread across the map, ending it fast. There are rarely any exciting things to carry over anyway. The campaign is a branching sequence of maps. Your level cap grows only a couple levels on each. The heroes become really strong, but leveling is the most fun feature. And unlike Disciples, it's mostly about stats raising, instead of paradigm shifting. Parry and charge are not on par with the first strike, and you can live without all 3, if you spend those points on primary stats instead. Some missions chain games have preset heroes every time, sometimes with faux continuity. Age of Wonders Planetfall is not a hero-based TBS, but a 4X, so it wipes everything away every time, making the campaign meaningless. Heroes allows you to keep artifacts, while wiping your army. In this game you are given points to spend on things to transfer between missions. You can transfer your secondary heroes, your artifacts, your gold tier army, or even some cash and mana. Sounds cool, right? But you are always given barely any points, while everything is really expensive. At the start of a map your balance is in red, so the cash you take will pointlessly disappear and the units you've transferred will leave you. The selection of units is unpredictable. It's almost always some trash guarding backwater villages instead of your useful units. When you get the second and the third heroes, transferring them costs so much that you won't have anything left. The artifacts are really expensive. Most of them go partially or entirely obsolete. Anything good is too expensive to transfer, and you can't even check their stats. You have to memorize them before finishing a map. It doesn't help when several artifacts use the same sprite. Without relying too much on your heroes and without early assassination, normal and easy difficulties are quite challenging and require good resource management, especially early on the map, before you got enough income to survive.
I wonder what it used to be like in those days.
The first time I've played I was a good little keeper and went with elves. With a mediocre hero, without eagles and air elementals, I was progressing really slowly. I got into a map where the enemy held several nukes and I couldn't even leave the town without instantly being destroyed. It took me a ton of time to finally beat that map. I've reached the last one and was constantly harassed by Marines assaulting my corner of the map. I took a break and my flash memory has died with my saves. In 2022, I read up on a good hero build. The maps that were troubling became fine. With summoned eagles, I was breaking all enemy nukes and generally harassed their mines and unguarded cities. I stumbled into the human route, so in the last mission humans were my allies. That is my advice for anyone playing it for the first time. They have insanely big army and free resource generators. Instead of aggressively harassing me together with all the bots, they were conquering the map. I've finally finished the game after all those years and was happy. I started the Dark campaign, and got bogged down with a low-level hero on the first map for some time, and then lost the second map. All the second maps in this game are a terrible waste of time. In all four you either rush them too fast without having fun, or get dragged down and lose by the extremely short timer. I was discouraged again. This year I decided the time has come. Well, I decided that the time has come long time ago, but this time, the time has finally come, and so have I. I improved upon my build by starting as a rare Pepe and having free water walking. I rushed the defense even faster, playing basically more or less the same thing again. I was more often resorting to assassinating enemy heroes early without any support. Despite this being a dark campaign, on many maps I had good race relations with elves, humans, dwarves, hobbits. Meanwhile orcs and undead hated me every time until the story forced them to submit to me. The dark races are kinda weaker. Goblin's peak unit is a very weak melee dude. Dark elves incarnate can look scary, but it's not the machine of ultimate destruction from the sequel. It's especially pathetic when overshadowed by the heroes. Orcs are strong enemies with their warlords, and a pack of orc dragons is okay, especially compared to the melee ones. Undead offer reapers. Mortal melee units with barely any defense. And this is supposed to be balanced against leprechauns? Their penultimate unit has way better stats and many immunities. I wanted to see the Pepes since the light campaign, so I went that route. They have swimming siege engines. Their best unit is a max-range lasgun that can swim. I wanted to go undead for the last stretch, so to avoid the harassment from humans I just rushed their capital with my 3 frog heroes and killed their main hero. Not only that reduced their threat, but I also got their resource generators. But as this is the last map, this time I didn't entirely clean it up, but hunted down all the remaining heroes. Unlike in Westwood games with their fake choices, each choice here significantly changes the story and the race you lead. It is a smart campaign that forces you to play multiple races in one go. Instead of creating one campaign for each or plain leaving some races with no campaign representation whatsoever. There are 6 endings with different stories and with only partially shared maps. Arguably I did 3 runs, since I can read the ending to my first run online. But I'm not gonna do 3 runs more. At least not in a conventional sense, because there's too much overlap between the runs. I already got my fill of the gameplay with just one campaign, and now I've finished 2. This is a great game, but I'm not conservacuck enough to play the same thing again and again for thousands of hours, without my brain wanting to commit ritual ididacamison. The plot is not that good, because you are missing crucial information and context, present only in the slides of different branches. In my dark campaign Iniak came entirely out of nowhere. But the overall lore and story are outstanding. Human immigrants invaded this continent and after some time they got into a serious fight with elves. The elves say that humans genocide everyone in the valley. Yet when you reach the last map, every race is present there, and humans never resettle conquered towns. Meanwhile the leader of the Keepers Julia declares that she seeks only peace with humans, but her goal in the last mission is to genocide/enslave them all. All factions are shady and all of them lie. Elves pretend that they are inherently good guys, but genetically they are the same people as the Dark Elves. They are no different from humans, just more politically polarized to the point of schism. Keepers outright refuse to deal with you if you try to find new friends. To remain a keeper you have to stick by the old minority, instead of gaining allies. Dwarves needed help, but when I tried to gain highmen friends, because elves didn't have anything urgent, the elves outright attacked us. The civilians were still supportive, but not the keeper government. Well, all in all it seems most of the Age of Wonder IP events happen due to highmen meddling. Including all the good things. They are uninvited and biased, but they are not evil or cruel. The combat happens on Hexgrid, and it's rather defensive, which means biased towards the AI, because it's ready to stay in one place and wait for you to attack. A unit that has moved loses its ranged and magic attack, so the attacker has to get into the defender's range first and gets a free arrow to the knee. Melee units can attack at the end of their path, but even the cavalry and flyers rarely can close the distance in one turn. Unlike heroes, you can gather multiple armies around the enemy and several of them will be present in the combat. Same works when you attack a hostile army with another hostile one in the neighboring tile in the overworld. I never got to see a 3-way fight here, but as far as I can remember we had some in Hot Seat in the sequel. The city sieges are way more fun than in other games. There is a mathematical possibility that you can destroy enemies' Onegaran heroes, and then shoot all of its archers. But that was barely happening. In AOW, if you've built walls, the whole combat changes. Defending archers can shoot at the attackers, while the attackers can't respond. Rams can survive a lot of arrows, but not all of them. If you manage to destroy the ram fast, the attacker will have to leave. There are wall crawling and flying units. Some units can destroy walls. If an attacking army has nothing of sort, it can't take over even if the city has no defenders. The overworld has many neutral buildings. Besides the typical resource providers, there are buildings which can produce specialized units. As you can raise the buildings in cities, there are units which can restore those. The races are really cool, and there are many fun units with their specialties. Mountains and water can be impassable for some units, but not for the others. There are transports. On the underground level, some units can dig, creating alternative passages. The cities that do nothing can produce merchandise to offset upkeep. You can even use a rubber frame to select multiple units and give them an order. Though, even at its maximum, the move speed is not fast enough, especially on the last map, when the bots have hundreds of units. And there's not enough feedback. You can understand why some units leave you due to bad race relations. But why would air elementals leave you? They are neutral. I didn't uninstall the game, so my memory is hazy. I've played it just fine in 2009 on Win 7, but I think I needed an unofficial patch this time to make it work on Windows X, because it done give it to me. The GUI is fine, but you still better read the manual. There are many useful hotkeys, which you can't look up anywhere else. It runs at the desktop resolution, so in UHD it is zoomed out, giving you very good FOV. While Dune 2000 run on DOS Tech in 1998, with non-square pixels, AOW is made to run on proper age-neutral tech flawlessly. The whole game is built out of windows you can rearrange or even close. In an ideal world, it would have also had scaling options and zooming. Because even on a 49 UHD screen, so actually worse pixel density than 24 FHD, the GUI is tiny.